So what we have here is, if you can see on the screen, we have some of your screen time. So this was last week, 3 hours,
That's to say,
sometime on,
the average screen time is 3 hours per day.
correct. You're picking up your phone about 63 times per day. A lot of the time, so 58, almost 60% of your time is spent on social and entertainment. And the question is, it's not for me to judge, it's for you to judge and say, is that where I want to spend my time? That's all.
No, 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 no. I mean, it goes without saying. 100%. We've kind of hit the bullseye here for sure. We can tweak this a lot. But I mean, if I took on your habits and your structure, I'd win 3 hours every day. Because in the beginning of the show, you said you're down to 1 hour of screen time.
I thought we weren't recording, but okay, so yeah, no, but it could be, and that's exactly where I was, 4 hours every single day.
Coach me if you can. Coach me if you can. Coach me if you can. Coach me if you can.
Yannick, welcome to this very exclusive corner of chaos. So maybe you could kick us off, Yannick, with telling us what you do and why you do it.
Good question. I am Dr. Yannick van Hierden. I am a behavioral scientist and high performance coach. I run a peak performance coaching and consulting firm called Impactor. I specialize in working with business owners, executives, high performers to help them achieve, by lunch, what most do all day without burning out. I did a PhD where I combined behavioral science and ancient wisdom to figure out how can people live a healthier, happier life? How can we make a meaningful impact in people's lives, in our own lives, but in people's lives as well? And the reason I do this work is because I have gone through quite a significant transformation myself when I was about 24, moving from the Netherlands to Australia, and really 180-degree turn in my lifestyle, essentially. Quit drinking, quit smoking, went from the bottom 5% of my class in university in the Netherlands to graduating at the top 1%, at Griffith University here in Brisbane. And a couple of years before that, that was unthinkable.
What explains the 180? Was this a specific day, or what changed in your life and in your mind?
I'm at university and I'm sitting in a lecture theater, and there was actually a yogi, not a professor. And what he said something that really opened my eyes. He said, your mind can either be your greatest friend or your worst enemy. And that really resonated with me because for years I had allowed my mind to be my enemy, essentially. And at some point I was really low, at a low point, and I was unhappy. And this yogi, he said, what most people do is all they do with their life is they follow these short-term pleasures at the cost of, or by, ignoring the long-term happiness. And he said, the yogis and the ancient and the sages who have been studying life for countless thousands of years, they have something that they can access internally that gives them happiness, meaning, clarity. And they're not interested in any of the, quick pleasures, the iPhones, the, scrolling social media, the alcohol, and those kinds of things. And he said, by doing that meditation, you will not just get relaxation, but you also get clarity on what you want to do with your life. And I was like, wow, that sounds really intriguing, because I was searching for all that, and I was like, he is right, because I've been trying all this and it hasn't fulfilled me. Next week I'm going all out partying, and then next day I'm like, I'm not going to do it again. And then, next week I would be still doing it. And so I'm sitting and listening to him knowing that resonates with me. And I decided to take up the meditation practice. And through taking up the meditation practice, I was able to be relaxed, have more clarity, have more focus, do a little bit better in university, then slowly changing all my habits, getting rid of drinking, getting rid of any sort of negative, anything that wasn't serving me, and completely changed, and graduated, at the top of the university, and then getting an offer to do a scholarship, to do a PhD, a scholarship offer. And that was from realizing that, hey, in my case, the mind really is the key to success. I had allowed my mind to just run my life essentially, whereas I had to take the steering wheel and run my life. And I learned that through meditation. I learned how it all works, and I was able to essentially take control and make decisions that were good for me in the long term. I finally felt I was happy.
Would you say your mind's your friend now compared to then?
That's a great question. I would say most of the time, my mind is my friend. But the way my meditation teacher explained it to me is that it's kind of like you have dogs barking at you. So your mind comes to you with all kinds of voices of saying, "Hey, should you be doing this, or should you be doing that?" Give you suggestions of, maybe have the beer right now. Why don't, it's really difficult. Why don't we give up? Oh, the person is smoking. Why don't we smoke the cigarette as well? Say I have told myself I'm not gonna drink tonight, and I'm going out, and then it would tell you, oh, the people there having a drink. Why don't we just have a drink as well? That kind of thing. Like, it's a bad example because I'm not drinking anymore. But some of the things, the dogs are barking at you, giving you, hassling you all the time. And in the beginning, the dogs are really close by, barking, potentially even biting. I remember when I was 12, we had a dog, a puppy, and the puppy would rip my pants to shreds because it was untrained. And it did that twice with two pairs of pants. And then at some point, through practicing, different practices such as meditation, for example, you start to understand, or the dogs, they go more to a distance. So you might still hear the dogs barking, but they're not
Suddenly it's at the neighbors, then it's
disturbing
down the end
anymore.
of the street, and then it's in the distance.
Exactly.
I have a couple of statements for you, Yannick. It's called fact fiction.
Sound good? Let's go.
Thinking is addictive because it feels like progress.
Fact and fiction. Do I have to, is it a hard picker? I think where you're getting at is, when thinking too much and not taking action, then there's no progress happening. And so I agree 100% with that. If we're overthinking and never taking action, then no progress is happening. And so that's that's the trap. But on the other end of the spectrum is that we can't just be taking action all the time without thinking first. So the nuance there is that I would say we need a little bit of both. Sometimes momentum brings clarity. We need to act to understand if something works or not. And then that's how we find out. And so we act and we think, and then we act and we think. And you cannot just 100% act and not think, and you cannot 100% think and not act. So there must be a balance.
No, I like how you answered that, because I remember when I burnt out, I tried to think my way out of burnout. And my antidote, I'm a very strategic thinker. I can think very well. I'm 10 steps ahead usually when it comes to things. But there are certain aspects of life where that isn't what you need. And if it's the tool you keep grabbing to because it's the one you're most familiar with, it can create problems. Clarity isn't something you find, it's something you build.
Fact. I agree. And that ties to the previous question, is if I wake up all of a sudden in the woods and I'm like, oh, where am I? I can try and figure out, looking at the trees and where am I, and, hoping that it kind of like naturally arrives, but no, I'd have to get moving. And so this is advocating for the, previous answer, is that sometimes we do need to move and start doing something and building something. So let's say I'm in the woods and I start walking and walking and walking, and at some point I find a little water and I follow the water, down the stream, and then sudden I get to a road, and then I follow the road, and the road will lead me to a town. And so I need to make an effort to get to understand where am I and where do I need to be. And that effort is, I guess, the equivalent of building, is I need to put the effort, I need to explore, I need to write, I need to think, I need to listen, I need to search, and I need to have tried a few things to understand that's not for me. That doesn't work for me. This is not true. This is not sufficient. This doesn't help me. This is what I should be doing, because I can feel that this is going in the right direction, and that builds clarity.
Your thoughts shape your reality, but only if you believe them.
I would say back to the quote that I said before, where that yogi said, the actual quote is from the Bhagavad Gita. It goes like this. It says, "For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be his greatest enemy." And so thoughts are a product of the mind. So are emotions, desires, anxieties. Whatever the mind is producing, say thoughts, thinking, feeling, they could be incorrect sometimes. Like when I'm talking negatively to myself, when it says, hey, let's say I'm talking in front of a group of people, and it's giving these thoughts of doubt. Hey, you're not good enough. Who are you to speak to these people? And it's giving these signals, to protect you perhaps, because maybe, what if you say something wrong and they don't like you anymore and you fail, what about these things? And so if we believe those thoughts, they may not be real, but we believe them. And then we act based on those thoughts, and we decide, oh, actually, I'm not going to speak. I will just stay here. Or, the thoughts that I have is when I, once I get this promotion, then I'll be happy. And then the thought might be a reality, but that might become your reality. And then you act on it. And then turns out, oh, maybe the promotion isn't quite what I wanted. I need a car, or I need a house, or I need, go on this holiday or whatever. And so the mind can be an ally, essentially, in suggesting thoughts that are useful, but it can also give us thoughts that are not so useful. So if we say thoughts shape our reality, is that often the way I think what I've learned in the PhD that I did in studying these scriptures is that behavior usually starts with a thought. Even if it's a habit at first, it starts with a thought, and we think we have some desire to get either move towards pleasure or move away from pain. And the thought is what will trigger an action. And so if we believe that this thought is, what we should act on, then it strongly influences our behavior, and therefore it could shape your reality. So the statement you gave is multi-interpretable. Like you can interpret from different ways, but this is how I interpret it, is that reality is the result of your behaviors. Repeated behaviors. Your life is essentially a series of events. You make choices, you engage, you act, you do behaviors. That's your reality. And it starts with the thought. And if you make sure that the thoughts that are generated in your mind come from a place of wisdom and truth, then your reality could be very good. And if not, if it's guided or misguided by things that are not true, then your life could be very frustrating.
Sounds
Yeah.
like an essential skill to be able to step back and observe your thoughts in the wheelhouse, see the kind of alert message on the dashboard kind of come in and like, okay, let's triage this. What are we going to do with it? Are we going to pay attention to the barking dog? Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the absence of resistance.
Mostly fact, mostly agree with the statement. Resistance, maybe it's not absence of resistance, but in the analogy that we talked about with the dogs, is that maybe it's management of resistance, where there is some resistance, but it's on the background. And the resistance could be something that is holding us back and is actually, let's interpret resistance as something that is not beneficial. And
Like, why are the dogs barking? What's wrong with me? Why is it barking the whole time? Like, why is that happening?
yeah, why am I not successful yet? I look around, and I see all these people. They have got a promotion. They live in an amazing house. He just bought a BMW. Like, I am 35 or, however old. And I don't have that. Why? What's wrong with me? And maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not disciplined enough. Maybe I don't have, just like, they're born with it and I don't have that kind of talent that they have. All of that could be resistance. And so having ways to identify, we're talking a lot about thoughts and looking at these things, but if we have a way to identify what's a good thought, what's a bad thought, what's serving me, what's not serving me, to then have the things that are causing that resistance for me to live freely, to be happy, to succeed in life, then stillness is having the ability to manage that resistance. And in that way, I would agree mostly with the statement. Yeah.
And it ties back to what you were saying earlier. You can probably only be still if you tune out a lot of the distractions. Otherwise, it's always full of noise. Yannick, thanks for playing Fact and Fiction. So this is the part of the show where I hand the reins over to you. You're the coach, and we can spend about 45 minutes having a coaching session. And then maybe towards the end, we have a bit of a reflection. And I have two questions for you towards the end.
Okay. Sound good?
This is me handing over the reins to you.
Thank you. All right. I have asked you to prepare a couple of things. And so you did some, just to give a context to the listener, you did a forum where you expressed a few ideas of where you want to go and some of the things that are holding you back. You've also done a scorecard that assesses how you assess your ability to focus, essentially, your energy, your focus. I'd like to start is to just explore a little bit about where you want your life to be. What are your goals around being healthy in life?
For me, it's very much my feeling, the feeling that I have. And so I spent the better half of 10 years being obese, weighing around 115 kilos. And now I've lost something like 27 kilos. I still have a kind of a confidence hangover of being overweight for 10 years. But for me, if you ask me what's your ideal vision of health in your life, it would be a scene, me in my garden. It's early morning. I've already gone for a run. I've already done something. I've already put a coin in the machine to invest in myself, because I have recently learned that the more I invest in myself like that, the more amplified my ability is to have a positive impact on my family and spread light to friends, people around me. So for me, when you ask what's your ideal picture of health, it is that feeling that you get, kind of a feeling of a feeling of confidence, satisfaction, pride, but also ties into what we're going to talk about, clarity. Like, I've got my goals. I know that what I've done today is painting into that long-term picture. It's not just a short-term thing. Like, I've already put the coin in the machine. And for me, it's 100% about that feeling, because I feel sometimes at my best when I've gone out for a run. I've sweated out all the stress and all of that and the struggle, and the rest of the day sometimes becomes effortless. My ideal vision of health is a feeling.
Epic, epic. Well, first of all, I just want to say that it's awesome to hear that you're so well on your journey, losing weight and experiencing what that feels like compared to, where you were before, and understanding that it doesn't just impact yourself, but also your family, which I know is really important to you. So good on you. Really, really nicely done.
The dog does bark, though. The dog does bark. Should we have another beer? My wife and I, after a stressful day, we fancy sitting on the couch, having a beer, unwinding. But yeah, then the vicious cycle goes on, because the next morning you're not going to beat the rat race and get up and go for a run with the dog. You're going to lie in, and then you're not going to feel as good. And then maybe with me, just thinking of alcohol, it affects my mood for sure. So,
Yep.
Made a lot of progress, but I'd say the battle is still real. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's an ongoing battle, and
Yeah.
we can spend some time either in this session or maybe in the next session to address some of these things. Then, what I asked you is like, what is the value of these things? Why do you want to achieve these vision? And you said, increased impact on your family, increased impact of your life, spreading light, as you just said, through humor, love, energy, impacting your children, your wife, your own life enjoyment. I mean, that's why health is important to you. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so we've established that as well for ourselves and for the listener. I want to then talk about, then we mentioned the obstacles. So letting work determine your calendar is one thing. Maybe working for too long, not prioritizing yourself, feeling unfit, and alcohol was one of the things. Then I also asked you about your peak performance state. So there's two things that I wanted to address, and right now we're focusing a little bit more on the peak performance state, and in the future we'll talk about your health. But this session, let's talk about performance. So based on everything that you wrote down, what stood out the most to you that you feel like, if I were to describe this ideal performance state in a nutshell, what would you say now?
So I don't know exactly what I wrote in the survey, but reflecting afterwards, it's as if I've learned how to be more at peak performance when it comes to my career. And I have a lot further to go when it comes to my private life, health, family, peak performance. And I think that's easy. I've just prioritized. Also in the 10 years when I was overweight, having studied, it was always career first, career first, career first. And so peak performance is easier for me to define in that area of my life. Whereas now I'm looking at it more, the foundation, I'd say, is how you get up in the morning, the private life, and work is an aspect of that. So there's this reshift, this reframing happening. But yeah, that's how I kind of look at peak performance now. Now I would almost argue peak performance is, what can I do now that puts me in a perfect state or that clears the conditions for the plane to have a flight that is less bumpy, with less weather problems, and maybe make the landing in the end. So that for me now is peak performance, this investment, the coin in the machine. What coins do I put into the machine, and what do I do then? So is it, that's how I'm kind of looking at peak performance now, more as an investment.
Yep. I love it. I love it. That's great because you're right. It's so easy to see peak performance as something that is doing something productive, adding some value to the business or to your work. But I love that you're saying that because that's how what I believe as well is that in order to be healthy, that requires elements of peak performance. When you perform at a high level in your personal life as well as in your professional life, then you can be healthy and be successful
Mm,
and be happy, right? And so when we are a real peak performer is not a person who performs only in their business, but if they neglect if they're performing well at work but neglecting their personal life, then they're a good worker, but
yeah,
not a peak performer. And the peak
yeah,
performer has a way to balance these all the balls that are in the air and
yeah.
keep them properly balanced. So okay, and what you said there is I wanted to highlight this again for you. The reason why that's important is life satisfaction, ability to spread light, inspiration, creativity, energy, etc. And the same obstacles show up. It's getting stuck doing other people's work, drinking alcohol, not taking care of yourself. So it's really interesting that the same obstacles show up for you both in your health as well as in your peak performance.
Which ties
So,
into what you just said a minute beforehand, right?
yep, yep. And I see that in your scorecard as well. So what what I did is um, what you did is you answered a series of questions that essentially look at how do you perform currently. And I want to bring these up, but I just want to first start with the goal that
Hmm.
if we think about where do you want to be, and you can decide how what is helpful. I sometimes like for people to just think about where do you want to be in 6 weeks, where do you want to be in 6 months, where do you want to be in 6 years. Up to you. Sometimes people like to think about the 6 years ahead. Some people aren't ready. It depends on where you're at. So what makes sense to you right now? How far do you want to look ahead and think about making a plan of where you want to be? What feels right to you?
6 years.
6 years. Could you
Yeah.
describe what does success look like to you in 6 years?
Well, there's also an internal struggle going on with work, career. For who are you working? And is it for a company? And they have a lot of input into your calendar, what you do, how much time you're able to spend with your family, or is it something more that you choose you want to do? And so most recently, I've been reflecting about how would my life look like if I had my own business? Would I have more freedom to take my daughter to judo class or those kind of things, whatever it is, but kind of the master of my own calendar. Now you can argue I'm also the master of my calendar at the moment with work, but a lot of the things that end up filling the calendar are serving someone else, not necessarily me. Me indirectly in my career, fine, but right at the moment now, I'm kind of thinking in terms of own business and having, yeah, me choosing what I want to work on and the work that puts me in the best kind of flow state.
What makes it so, like, why is that important to you to have that autonomy, to have that independence, to be the master of your own calendar? Why is that important to you?
Because if I'm spending time away from my family, it has to mean something. And I feel like the ideas that I have in my head that could be a business, that could be something that I create, would be more worth my time than a career which ticks a lot of the boxes, but it also leaves quite a lot of boxes unticked. And I'm kind of reflecting now that those are quite important ones. And I have two kids, my son 1 year and my daughter 3 years. And I kind of want to be around in the next couple of years for sure. And I just love home office, working from home, being able to do the random little things, going for a big lunch with my wife, and not rushing to a meeting. And I just see at the moment more freedom in going your own route. But this is just a reflection at the moment.
A reflection, yeah, okay. Because I want to dive a little deeper into that reflection. Is why haven't you started the business already?
Pure timing, and some things it's not like I haven't dared to. I mean, I started the podcast, which was a big change, right? From just always having your career and family life. Now I have this thing. I'm kind of going with the flow at the moment. I've got a lot on my plate, but I'm also thinking in terms of how would that look like, and when's the right moment to start. And yeah, I'm just a bit cautious when it comes to. I don't like those kind of drastic decisions, especially if you have a career and a salary and responsibilities and those kind of things. So I'm kind of careful with that planning.
Yep.
And
Okay,
at the
I
moment,
get it.
it's not clear enough. The details are not clear enough, and there's been no testing. So I'd kind of like to get it really clear, and then maybe even a gradual kind of phase out rather than something abrupt.
Okay, I get it. So in 6 years' time, let's say you would have a business that takes care of all the money that you need, plus you have time extra to take your kids to judo, or if you're taking judo, also try some jujitsu just to try and
No, yeah.
convince you.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to make sure you give them an opportunity there. But let's say that's what you're doing. You have time with the family. You're doing some work that's meaningful, that makes sense. But you also have time every morning to put the coin in the machine and do the run and be in the garden. So that's what your life looks like in 6 years. What would that, if you were to have to take a step back, think about what's closer to you right now, and you think about 1 year, you think about 6 months, what are the things that you think you need to do to move closer to that 6 year goal? What is the starting point for you?
I'd say mastering my health and finding that balance of ticking boxes at work, but also investing in myself. It's always been work wins over that investing in myself in terms of health. So more recently, I have this kind of feeling of, I don't know if it's confidence, but it's going to work itself out. But I have that when I'm in a good state, when I feel good, then I'm like, okay, I got this, it'll happen. These ideas are great. I'll make it happen. And so, yeah, most recently, instead of it being a business goal that I want to achieve within 6 months, I think that just putting the coin in the machine again to make myself feel good, because when I'm in that state, kind of only good comes from it.
Okay, that makes sense. Then what would that look like in 6 weeks? Where do you want to be in 6 weeks thinking about that goal?
I would say habits, growing a running habit. I'd love to be doing that. That's something I'm also being coached on this show by a running coach. So that's going to work out. But there are so many things that have to happen for the weather conditions to be good to land the plane, if you might. So if you drink the night before, if you stay up late, if you waste a lot of time, drastically reduces the conditions for me to just whack the shoes on and be out in the morning. So I'd like a bit more calmness, a bit more routine in terms of, feeling good and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this question then. If in 6 weeks' time you haven't yet established the running routine or any other routine that you feel is necessary for you to feel healthier, to feel stronger, to feel more energetic, to sleep better, part of, and I'll share this with with the listener as well. I asked you about your energy and answering the question, on a scale of 1 to 4, I gave you some statements where 1 is never and 4 is always. You scored yourself on the statement, I wake up feeling rested. You scored yourself as 1. So always waking up tired. Your energy stays steady all day. Also 1. You stay alert without coffee or energy drink boosts. Also 1. Still having energy left after work, 2. So you're rating yourself. You're like, okay, well, this is not the ideal state that you are currently in, right? So let's say in 6 weeks' time, you have a routine, whatever you need to do to wake up a bit more restful, to have some energy left at the end of the day. What are like if that, let's say in 6 weeks' time, you're not able to establish that routine, what would that mean to you? How would that make you feel? What would that mean for your life?
That's a good question. I mean, I wouldn't 100%. I wouldn't give up. I'd still be trying. Right at the moment, crafting these kind of changes, they're difficult. You have 2 kids as well. You have to be flexible with these things, and you're not going to have perfect days. And what would it mean for me? Nothing. I'd just be working at it, but I feel like I'm so ready for feeling good in my own skin and kind of growing habits around putting the coin into the machine. Well, yeah. So I'd be patient, but I kind of don't want to be. So I want to kind of figure it out.
What I would want to do is I want to walk you through an exercise that something I've built that will help you get some idea of where you can find an opportunity to build in the routines that you want to create for yourself. So say within the next 6 weeks, what is the most important habit? Is it a running habit that you want to establish? Or what is the health-related habit? Or
running, but also doing gym exercises in the garden. We have all the stuff. We just have to use it. That and sleep. Those 3, I think, are priorities.
Yeah. Okay. And what are currently the biggest barriers to those? Is that still the same as what you put in what I just read out
for
previously?
Sleep, alcohol for sure. That's goes hand in hand, and I think also exercising, be it running or gym, also ties into alcohol, but also ties into the distractions that you meant. Like if my wife and I, we're expert black belt level chillers on the couch. When Netflix is on, we're in a happy place. But we once the kids are down, that's kind of how we like to wind down, right? But now the weather's nice, going into the garden and lifting some weights together in nice weather, that would be lovely. I mean, we'd have to make the choice. Hey, we're not gonna watch this series we're currently watching. Let's do that, and maybe we have a no Netflix night, and which we kind of know how to do, but maybe there needs to be a bottle of wine kind of involved. We're also black belt at enjoying a nice glass of red wine, right? But how having an evening that is not watching Netflix or chilling or having a nice dinner together, I think we kind of have to figure out how that looks like. But I can see ourselves going outside into the garden and lifting some weights. And I doubt that we'd want to watch Netflix or have a bottle of wine after working out.
So what we have here is, if you can see on the screen, we have some of your screen time. So this was last week, 3 hours.
That's to say, the average screen time is 3 hours per day.
Correct. So we looked at your week, and it automatically looks at the week. This is not a full week, though. So if you look at last week, so this one was last week, is the average of 3 hours and 50 minutes per day over the course of a week, where there might be 3 hours and 44 minutes on YouTube. There might be, oh, well, there is that time. There is that time on LinkedIn. I know you're building your show. I know you're doing a lot of activity on LinkedIn. But this is for you to go through and see what do some of these, what does some of that activity mean to you? How important is it to you versus the time that you spend on your
Incredibly
health
brave of me
routine?
to share that openly, right? Incredibly brave. I mean,
Mm,
right, Yannick?
absolutely. See, this is something that when I speak to people and they say, "Oh no, really? Do you want to see my screen time?" They don't want to share it with me. And I forgot actually how precious this is. You sharing this openly for people to see is, yeah, more
Oh, no,
power
I
to
was being
you.
funny. I was being funny. But I do want to see my wife's screen time. And yeah, I do think it's incredibly high at the moment. And so I'm happy that we're zooming into, I think, a couple of the usual suspects, this being one of them. I wouldn't say usual suspect, that doesn't do it justice, but I think it's a hidden kind of culprit, that when you see it grouped together and averaged over a week, it's quite shocking. Then you see, okay, hey, we have 4 hours daily per week. That's half a work day daily, right? That we have to play with when we
Yep.
overlay that with my goals and some of the other things. So maybe an invitation to the listener: go onto the settings, enter, search for screen time if you have an iPhone, and look it up. I don't know what it is for Samsung, but have a look at your own screen time where
Digital
you can,
well-being. Yep.
yeah, digital well-being, yeah, and have a look at your own scores, and that might be the amount of time you have yourselves to figure out, is there a better use of that time?
Absolutely. When people tell me, well, I don't have time for meditation. Well, I don't have time to go to the gym. And I always tell them, show me your calendar, show me your screen time, and then tell me that all of this is essential and critical. And they say, you're right, it's not. And I can actually make time because we don't have time for anything that we do, is we make time.
Mm.
And you choose to make that time. If there's an emergency, all of a sudden you can, stay at home for 6 hours and not go to work or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, what makes that emergency different from, for example, your health or, fill in whatever goal you have. So what this shows is, um, in your focus, there's a lot of context switching, a lot of mornings. In your case, I'm just going to go through it quickly because we don't have a lot of time, but a lot of checking your phone in the morning. And so when you just said, "Oh, I'm taking a run in the morning," as if, or I'm in the garden, I have taken a run, that's the coin, I put into the machine. It's like, why don't we just start with a run in the morning instead of checking your phone? Like, that's just one
Yeah.
consideration. And we'll check this next week. Um, Afternoon energy dips. So a lot of fragmenting your schedules with meetings,
Yep.
lots of alerts in your on your phone and your workspace, lots of interruptions. And then one of the questions was, do I have a wind down routine? No, you have your phone very close to your bedtime. So what are these things? How does that impact your behavior? In this case, for the sake of time, I'm just going to skip the calendar and just go to the digital habits. So daily screen time, in this case, 3 hours and 50 minutes on average. You're picking up your phone about 63 times per day. A lot of the time, so 58, almost 60% of your time is spent on social and entertainment.
Mm.
And the question is, it's not for me to judge, it's for you to judge and say, is that where I want to spend my time? That's all.
No. I mean, it goes without saying, 100%. We've kind of hit the bullseye here for sure. We can tweak this a lot. I do know I need a lot of time on LinkedIn, but 4 hours a day, 100% not. That can
Okay.
be
Yep.
an organized half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. That would be already be a lot, right? But I have started, and this is a positive development, I have started going for walks with my dog during the day, around the park where I leave my phone at home. And it's half an
Great.
hour that I'm out, and I
Yep.
love it. I absolutely
Awesome.
love it. But we've hit the
Great.
bullseye here. This
Great.
is something we can tweak.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love that. So here it gives you some tips. So a lot of where you can find time is to not have your phone in the first thing in the morning, is to figure out this deep work block in the morning where you say, okay, well, maybe it's 45 minutes on LinkedIn. Minimize meetings in some way if you can, and spend fewer time on, less time on social media. And then the afternoon energy dip is something that we can address too here as well. So here's some suggestions that I'll just pick one. Is your let's pick these two. Is this phone firewall upon waking, is that maybe on your, like, some setting that I have in on my iPhone is actually having the do not disturb function, so that when in the morning my my alarm goes off, then what I see is just, oh, you can't see it so well right now, but what I see is just a white screen. There's nothing, there's no notifications, just the alarm notifications. If the do not disturb function is set to a certain time, you will not be like, oh, let me check this thing, it's kind of locked, and you just push it aside and
Yeah.
do something else. So we won't go into all of this strategy here. What I want you to do is actually for the next 7 days, I'll share this with you, and we can share this. The listener can do this too. So for the next 7 days, what I want you to do is I want you to do a digital reset. And I want you to consider all the technology that you're currently using on your phone, on your computer, to think about all of the technologies, make a list, and consider which of these technologies are not essential. So if by taking a break from the technology, your phone or on your computer, wherever it is, and that includes Netflix, it includes streaming services, gaming, social media, technology, anything technology. It doesn't include your dishwasher and your washing machine, right? And anything that you can take a break from without it significantly harming your professional or personal life. So maybe that is Netflix. Maybe that is some sort of social media. Maybe it's not LinkedIn.
I know a couple of, I think I'm even thinking in terms of what apps can I delete off of my phone, because if I did LinkedIn on my laptop and that became the rule, and I kind of scheduled that time where I do that, and it's on the laptop, it's not on the phone, that's already a massive win, right? And deleting YouTube Shorts, for sure. I mean, that's just
you get the point.
Yeah.
You get the point. Exactly. So that's the step.
Yep.
Identifying what are the things that you can remove from your phone, not deleting the account, not deleting it from your computer or denying access from your computer, deleting it from your phone. Is getting rid of, because the thing is that this device has been designed in such a way to pull you at every time of the day. 63 times. The average for people is actually 75. So you're just a little bit below the number of pickups for people. Remove those apps from your phone, and for 7 days, don't touch them on your phone, and just go through that experience. And then after 7 days, you can look, okay, do I want to have LinkedIn on my phone? Well, maybe not. And you say, I come up with some rules and say, after 7 days, I have reviewed, I know what it feels like to not have it, and I'm going to only use it on my computer, and I have a specific calendar block, and I'm not going to go beyond that block, and I'm going to do the most.
Challenge accepted, 7 days, and we can look at the screen time. We can have the comparison, right? Next session, we can just kick off there.
Exactly. Cool.
I'd suggest we round off the first coaching session there. Imagine the listeners on the highway passing the same billboard every day, and it's Dr. Yannick van Hierden's billboard. What'd you put on it?
Don't believe everything you think. Don't embrace everything you feel. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are the captain of the ship that sails through the storm, but at the end of the day, you make the decisions where to go. if that is something that people contemplate on, reflect on, think about, and start to understand and appreciate, their life will change and be very different.
And what parting challenge would you like to leave the listener? Maybe for the week until we meet again? Maybe it's one in general, a challenge that you think everybody should give a try.
I think it's a challenge we just discussed. I think everybody should do a 7-day digital reset. The reason I say that is because I do it every year, because the thing creeps back in. So if you have done this before, then I would say do it again. What it means is to take a break from all the technology that doesn't significantly impact your life and remove it from your phone, and also actually don't access it on your computer. So for some people, if, for example, LinkedIn is not critical to the health of your business, then don't touch it for 7 days. If Netflix is, which probably is not critical, just get rid of it. Get rid of the television. Like, put the television in a different room or whatever it is. Take a break from something from the non-essential technology for 7 days, and replace that time with things that you can do in the real world. Creating something with your hands, doing some sort of art, reading a book, spending time with your partner, having a date night, going to the gym, spending time with your kids. It doesn't matter. Just replace the time that you spend behind a screen and replace it spending with either yourself, doing something with your hands, or with another person face to face. Try and do something face to face. For 7 days, do that. Reflect on how it makes you feel. Write about it, talk about it, and do that in 7 days. And then make a decision for which of the technology are you going to keep at bay, and say, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to have that. And that's a long-term process. But every person that I give this challenge, they come back after 7 days and they're like, mind is blown. I've decided to not use this anymore. And people will reclaim, just by doing this exercise, they will reclaim up to 2 hours every single day.
This week, what's in store for us next week?
What we will do next week is we will jump into behavioral science. What are the drivers essentially that drive a person to behave in a certain way? How can we play with those drivers to steer your behavior in the right direction?
Sounds good. See you next week.
See you next week, Peter.
If this podcast has made you laugh, think, or question your entire life plan while loading up the dishwasher or doing a diaper, do me a favor, please subscribe. Hit that follow button on Spotify. It's free and it helps me more than you know.
Coach me